Hi, this is Miss Klutts again, and we're going to continue working on the pages that we would be doing if we were in class. Our unit is Scatter Plots and Data, and this is Student Handout 4. We're continuing with our trend lines, using them to solve problems. Remember, our trend line is called the line of best fit. It is the line that fits in the middle of most of the data points. Remember, if there is an outlier, then we ignore the outlier and put our trend line in the middle of most of the data points. Our introductory problems is here. Let's read together. Several members at a gym were asked how many minutes they worked out at the gym that day, as well as how many calories they burned. Their answers were used to make the scatter plot at the right. I underlined the word several because I wanted to review from a previous lesson how we can find out how many people were interviewed. If we need to know how many people were interviewed, we simply count the dots, count the points on the graph. They're not asking that this time, but I wanted to review. They are asking A, write an equation for the trend line. Remember, an equation means y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. I always find my b first because b is always my starting point. We can easily see that this line starts at 0, 0, or the origin, which shows us it's a proportional relationship. If it's a proportional relationship, a straight line that starts at the origin, then every point on that line would be my slope. I can find my slope with any point on the line. Here's a point that is a strong point on the line, and it's at 60, 900. And if I divide 900 by 60, I will get 15. And 15 is my slope. But what if it wasn't a proportional relationship, or you forgot? You would find 2 points on your line. I found these 2. And you would find out how much you had to rise to get from one to the other. When we rise, we count how many it goes up. It goes up 3, but you have to look at your scale. I'm counting by 100s. So up 3 would be 100, 200, 300. So I have a rise of 300. I also have to count how far I go to the right or left. This time I go to the right, so it's 2 places, but I am counting by 10s on my X, so 2 times 10 is 20. So my rise is 300 and my run is 20, and 300 divided by 20 is 15. My slope is 15. What else could I have done to find my slope? Did you say subtract the y over y and x minus x of my 2 points? You'd be perfectly correct. So I know now that my equation is y equals slope of 15 times x plus 0. But do I put the 0 for b? You know I don't. So my final answer is y equals 15x. B, what does x represent in the equation? You look at your x-axis at your label. Our label on the x-axis tells me it represents time and minutes. So my x means minutes worked out. What does my y represent in the equation? We look at our label on the y-axis, and it tells us that our y represents calories burned. So total calories burned. Number 1 says use the equation to answer the questions below. So we're going to use our equation that we wrote, y equals 15x, to answer 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1, how many calories would you expect someone to burn if they spend 120 minutes at the gym? Well, we just said that minutes worked out is our x. So if we put in 120 for x, we have y equals 15 times 120. 15 times 120 is 1,800. So my answer would be 1,800 calories. Number 2, if someone has burned 1,740 calories, how many minutes would you predict they've spent at the gym? Well, we said our y represents total calories burned. So if we put in our 740 for y, then we would have 1,740 equals 15x. If we solve for x, minutes worked out, we would get our x by ourselves. The opposite of multiply by 15 would be divide by 15 on both sides. 1,740 divided by 15 is 116 equals x. X equals minutes, so my answer would be 116 minutes is what I'd predict they'd spend at the gym. Number 3, what is the slope of the trend line of the equation and what does it represent? We said that the slope was 15 and 15 next to x means the slope is 15. People would burn 15 calories every minute because we'd multiply the 15 by the minutes burned. Rise over run of the proportional relationship. Number 4, what is the y-intercept of the trend line and what does it represent? Well, we found it a long time ago. It's the origin, b equals 0, and it means a person who works out 0 minutes, like I do every day, would burn 0 calories, like I do every day. Okay, so we learned a lot from that one graph by using our trend line. Let's look at another example, how we can use our trend line to answer questions. Julian made a scatter plot to show the number of band members at his school over the years. The trend line of his scatter plot had an equation of y equals 13x plus 45, where y represents the total number of band members and x represents the number of years since 1980. Number 5. How many students would you predict to be members of the band in 1997? Okay, 1997 is after 1990, so the first thing we have to figure out is how many years since 1990 is 1997. 1997 minus 1990 equals 7. So x would be 7. So I would go back to my equation that they gave me, y equals 13x plus 45, and since x represents the number of years since 1990, I'd have y equals 13 times 7 plus 45. 13 times 7 plus 45 equals 136. So my answer would be, I predict 136 members. Number 6. How many students would you expect to be members of the band in 2010? Well, we subtract to find out that 2010 minus 1990 is 20 years. So this time, x equals 20. I put it into my equation. Y equals 13 times 20 plus 45, which is 305 members. Number 7. In what year would you expect the band to have 370 members? 370 is total members, so 370 is my y this time. So I would put in 370 for y. 370 would equal 13x plus 45. To solve for x, we do the one with the variable last. The opposite of positive 45 is negative 45 on both sides. 370 minus 45 is 325. 325 equals 13x. The opposite of multiply by 13 is divide by 13 on both sides. 325 divided by 13 is 25. 25 equals x. But it didn't ask me how many years it was. It said in what